You should have seen me. When I wrote this song, I was at my parents' house in New England, and I had my headphones in. I'm writing this song. There was this nice older gentleman that was painting our house, and he came in, and I am full on, like, bopping out, and he's like, excuse me, is your father home? Anyways, and fade. Welcome back to episode 6 of Dicks and Politics. My name is Samantha.
My name is Adriana.
I am the producer and head writer of this podcast, and Adriana is...
everything else. I have a lot of things.
She is our editor-in-chief, and she's also CFO of our production company. I'm CEO. Now, unfortunately, we do not have our director of communications with us. Our dear Hannah is still moving, but we brought back CorBen.
Yay!
Back by popular demand.
Your alternative co-host.
And we are thrilled. So let's get into it. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to cover a lot. We're going to do What's Burning. We're going to get into a little bit of talk about the royal family because we have a lot to say about Meghan Markle. So we're going to do a little Bescuse You. And we are also going to talk about modern manners, gifting in the goddamn workplace. What do you even... I hate Secret Santas. All right. But now, hold on to your pants because this segment of What's Burning is especial. And the reason it is especial is because I have convinced one of my 6 boyfriends to lead the segment. This guy is sexy. He is smart. He smells good. He was a poli-sci major, and he really knows his shit. Every single morning, he likes to update me on what's going on in the world, and I thought, what better way to do a 2018 political review than to bring in this boyfriend of mine. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming boyfriend number 1. Dicks and Politics, episode 6. What's Burning, featuring boyfriend number 1, take 150. Well, boyfriend number 1, thank you very much for joining us and for making time in your schedule. How does it feel to be my number 1 boyfriend out of 6?
It feels really great to enjoy the title of number 1. It's quite lonely up here.
Do you enjoy spreading the responsibility out between 5 of your friends?
Oh, sure. It's great.
Yeah.
It's absolutely wonderful.
There you go. So tell our listeners, I would love to give a bit of a background on how you first got involved in politics and where that passion took you, because you are quite qualified to have this conversation with us.
Sure. So I started getting involved in politics when I was about 16, worked on quite a few local races. Ultimately, when I went to school at Hofstra University, I even got the chance to cover the 2012 presidential debate. Ultimately led me down a career in journalism and broadcasting, but I still wound up in New York City despite a remote opportunity to live in the middle of nowhere in Maine.
I would have taken that, but that's just me. So the reason why I wanted to have you on the podcast is because I wanted you to give us, as well as our listeners, a rundown of what the hell happened in 2018. How did we start the year? What was the middle like? How did it end? And what do you think we can look forward to in 2019?
Well, I first off, I want to say a lot happened in 2018.
Yes.
But we're sort of beginning 2019 a lot like we began 2018. There's still a lot of uncertainty, even with Democrats having subpoena power and taking back control of the House on a historic margin against the Republicans in a big rebuke to Donald Trump. There's still a lot of unknown. Robert Mueller is still trying to show his cards on what exactly is happening in this 2-year now investigation. His personal lawyer has now been sentenced to 3 years in jail. There was a lot of question about where the Democratic Party was going to go. How they were going to run a campaign against Donald Trump. And, not to talk about 2020 too early, but I think
no, let's talk about it.
Over the next 2 years, we're going to see where Democrats want to focus on. We've now gone a month after the election, and there hasn't been any talk of the major topics of, the issues, whether it's health care or minimum wage or the environment. Yet we're still talking about investigations and leadership arguments with, Nancy Pelosi and I think that there's still a lot of questions that remain that can Democrats continue to focus on the issues and not on Donald Trump?
Yeah. Okay. Well, what do you think? I mean, do you think that the Democrats, now that they have this great advantage, they took the House back, as you mentioned, again, by such a huge margin, which we covered, I think, in episode 1. What do you think is going to become of the Democratic Party now? Do you think they're going to be able to really pull themselves together and put into action what they have been exclaiming they are so passionate about? Or do you think they will continue to focus just on Donald Trump and getting him impeached and getting him out of the way? So, in other words, do you think that work will still get done despite what happens with Trump? Or do you think that everything forward moving for the Democratic agenda is sort of hanging in the balance with, regarding what's going on
Well,
with
I
the
mean,
presidency?
that's a good question, and I'm not quite sure how to answer it yet myself. I look at what the past month has been, and we really haven't talked about the issues at all. And I think that that's a little bit scary for a lot of Democrats who are hoping that they can take Donald Trump in 2020.
May I ask, when you say we, do you mean you and me as private citizens? Do you mean the Democratic Party and their spokesman? Or do you mean the media?
I think everybody. I mean, I think everyone is very involved and actively trying to pay attention to what's going to happen. A lot of people are wondering, should the Democrats be helping Robert Mueller wrap up this investigation? Let Robert Mueller lead his own investigation. He will take care of Trump if Trump has done something incriminating. But the Democrats need to do what they've been elected to do. Focus on healthcare, focus on the issues, because that's where they won. They won on that ground, on every fight. Every exit poll demonstrates that.
Yeah.
And they didn't talk about Trump. So why fix something that's not broken?
Right. Why now that you finally have achieved what you were so hoping and worked extremely hard for, why now take a step to the side and focus on sort of the fuzziness over here when Mueller, I agree with you, he's got it under control. I completely understand.
Exactly.
Are there any Democratic let's talk about 2020. I'm very excited for 2020 just to sort of see where all of this takes us. But are there any Democratic nominees or Democratic sort of rising stars that you have your eye on? And if so, whom and why?
Well, I think there's been a lot of recent talk about Beto O'Rourke.
I was hoping you would say that.
I think that he seems to be the rising star right now. There seems to be some arguments, especially from Rahm Emanuel, as of recently of this past week, were sort of rising to a candidate who lost an election. And is that really the direction we want to go in? If you look at the past presidents that we've had on the Democratic side, you see Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Jimmy Carter. They were all elected before they were 50 years old. And that seems to be Democrats' bread and butter with what candidate works. And I think that Beto O'Rourke really fits in that mold. But there's also Kamala Harris. There's also Cory Booker. There's also Kristen Gillibrand. There's also a couple mayors out there that are really, really great candidates, or could potentially be really great candidates.
Yeah, absolutely.
But unfortunately, there is going to be a pretty big primary, and I think it's going to really determine the direction of the Democratic Party for the next 10 plus years.
Yeah.
If we go with an established candidate, I think that actually could be a foil for Trump.
Okay.
As opposed to somebody who's outside of Washington and younger and more energetic. That's something that the Trump campaign will not be able to fight against.
Yeah.
In the same manner as they did with Hillary Clinton.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think Trump will run again? I mean, I know it's hinging on whether or not he's impeached, and there's a lot. I get it.
Yeah,
so
he is. He's going to run.
But let me ask you this. Do you think he wants to run again?
I don't think he had a choice when he decided to run in 2015 that he had to be going for a 2-term presidency.
Because I remember saying to you a couple weeks ago that I feel like he will run, to just sort of stick it to America one more time. But do I think he necessarily wants to? I jury's still out
Well,
for
look,
me.
he's the first president that we've ever had that plays to 30% of the country. He plays a certain note that's for 30% of the United States, and those people and individuals are very, very hungry for what he does and what he has to say. He knows he needs to play to that base, and they want him to run for a second term, and that's why I say he doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
He's got to see it through for them.
Oh, but does he? Look, and it's like I said, and Adriana and I said this, and Hannah said it as well. We try to stay as neutral as possible, but for heaven's sake, this is the country. I mean, I think, for me, we've been talking a lot about global warming. We're launching our new special edition segment called Microscope, and the focus of that is going to be on a quarterly basis, talking just about global warming from a scientific standpoint, what's really going on and so on and so forth. Donald Trump does not believe that global warming even exists. He would not sign the Paris Climate Agreement. I mean, I look at, outside of just personal beliefs day to day, I try to remember that we're a part of something very big, and that we need relationships with other countries for certain resources to be successful, and we need to care for our planet so that we can survive. So I don't mean to speak out, so bluntly against Donald Trump, but I am a little, I think it would be nice to have someone who is a bit more thoughtful and mindful of the bigger picture, so to speak.
Just a couple things. I mean, look, you have an economy right now with 3.7 unemployment. If this was any other president, their approval rating would be easily 55% or north of that. All right? And considering that he sits at 40%, that's not great. That's terrible. Mm-hmm. Considering how great our economy is doing right now, and he is still at 41%, that says something. So as neutral as you may want to be, it's a little difficult to look at that and not have some sort of skepticism.
Right. And I think that's where my skepticism comes from.
Yeah, and I think that the American people are tired of a White House in chaos, and that's the way he wants it. And I think people just aren't okay with that
anymore.
You have a White House that comes out after a meeting with China with 7 different stories of what kind of deal happened, and it's not even from China; it's from his administration.
Yeah,
and I think that's really scary.
Yeah,
and you've seen the markets tumble for the past 2 weeks since that meeting. The Dow has dropped 7-8 points.
Now, do you remember? I think it was during episode 2 where I started to cover the governor's race down in Georgia. Mm-hmm. And do you remember what I said after I was talking about all this? I said, I just wonder, and I say this a lot, what the hell happened? What has happened to us that has led us to be, such a divided nation, which was so obvious when Trump was elected president? I had no idea how divided we were. But then I posed the question of, are we truly that divided? Or are there voices out there that are being silenced by the media, by government, by, whatever? Do you think that we are a nation divided, or do you think now, going into 2019, that we are a nation coming back together, realizing that we're a part of something much bigger than just you, me, and Joe, our neighbor down the street?
Look, I want to be hopeful, and I want to believe the latter part of what you just said. But I do think that when Trump got elected, there was a lot of rules broken. There were a lot of norms that were stretched or demolished. And I think that a lot more than usual is on the table these days when it comes to hiding votes. You look at North Carolina, they're going to have to redo the whole election.
Oh, God.
There's affidavits sworn by pollsters that were hiding Democratic votes.
Yeah. Just like they were in Georgia. I mean,
this is an election that was won by a Republican by less than 700 and so votes. And you have people being under sworn affidavits saying they were holding votes in their pockets. All right, that's not okay.
Yeah.
All right, and the Georgia election is a real shame, and I think that there is this thirst for hanging on to power because elections have consequences. Mm-hmm. And since Donald Trump got elected, there has been a lot of Republicans knowing that a doomsday scenario may happen, that his presidency is a real trial by error for our country.
Sure.
And I think Republicans know that much of their agenda is lackluster to the American people, and that they're going to have to look at different ways of governing in the future. And a lot of them are by trying to steal elections and trying to hold on to any way of power that they can.
Sure.
And it's really sad. And I hope that as we get into 2019 and 2020, they find a way to finally put a stop to it. And when I say they, I mean not only the American voters, but also potentially a Democratic Party that can be unified and find a new message for us.
Great. I completely agree. I think that there's a lot behind us that's sort of hard to wrap our heads around, and it's hard to talk about, and it's hard to think about. But I do think that there could very well be brighter days ahead, and I'm really looking forward to that. So,
same here.
Yeah, I think we all are. So with that being said, I'd love, if it's okay with you, I know that you listen to the podcast Pod Save America.
Sure.
You love NPR. It is a favorite of yours. And I also know that you read Political Wire a lot. Are there any other outlets or places that you go to find very unbiased, very neutral information about what's going on? I mean, Dixon Politics, that's what we're striving to do, is be as neutral as possible, bring people the facts, give them a few talking points, and then they can formulate their own opinions. Are there any other news sources, websites, TV channels? Where do you go to get the most unbiased information possible so that you can look at things for what they are and move forward with your thoughts and opinions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know about any of you out there, but I certainly don't have a television where I watch cable news anymore.
Nope.
I just don't have the time for it. However, I really love Political Wire. I know you mentioned that before, but Real Clear Politics is a fantastic website. It really covers as much as you need in terms of from all the different newspapers out there as well as other websites. Mm-hmm. I don't really have cable anymore, so I don't watch cable news. I think that a lot of it is just on repeat.
Yeah.
But definitely check out Political Wire if you all get the chance. It's probably one of my favorites out there.
Yeah, I like Political Wire, and then I also get the daily briefing from the New York Times. I read that. It comes to my email every morning, and I think... Do I pay for it? I don't even know anymore. I signed up for it so long ago. But I also read The Week, which I really like. It's a little magazine. It comes to my mailbox once a week, and it gives me an overview of what's happening. Just enough information so that I'm not overwhelmed, but that I know what the hell is going on. Well, boyfriend number one, thank you again so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can have you back maybe sometime early 2019. Let's see if there's any more sun on the horizon, and if there's not, let's talk about it. And let's talk about how we can get involved and keep raising our voices, making our votes count, making our voices matter, and push forward as a country. So thank you again for joining us.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to chatting again.
Always a good time with boyfriend number one. He's definitely a favorite of mine. But you know what? Let's shift gears. 2018 was a shit show, and not just because of politics, but also because of goddamn Meghan fucking Markle. I am so sick and tired of hearing about this bitch. So let's get into it. Excuse you? Who the hell do you think you are? Now, CorBen, you and I regularly, and I mean Activia style regularly, text each other about Meghan Markle.
Yeah.
So, just for those people who have been living under a rock, who the fuck is she and why does she matter?
So, Meghan Markle is one of the most recent additions to the royal family, now known as the Duchess of Sussex. She is married to Prince Harry. And how they met was a bit unorthodox to begin with in general, because they have a mutual friend, and so, one thing leads to another, shaboopy. Oh, we kind of have something in interest. Although, from the beginning, you and I are like, there's an ulterior motive going on here.
Of course.
Now, I will never blame opposites finding each other for opposites, but I honestly don't think they have anything in common.
They have nothing in common. Mm-hmm. And their mutual friend, that she orchestrated that so perfect. Don't even try to come for me. Now, before Meghan Markle, and the reason why we have to jump into this too is Adriana doesn't know anything, so let us
I only wanted to watch the wedding for the dress, so that's how much I know.
And it sucked. Yeah. So, Meghan Markle, before she decided to charm the literal pants off of Prince Harry. We go through the whole
Yeah.
engagement, right? And she's there, and she's got her little cushion cut ring on with the little side diamonds. And, you know, I do love a cushion cut with side diamonds, so I'm not throwing shade at that. But we were watching her like a hawk during those first few interviews
Oh, yes.
after they got engaged. What were your observations, CorBen?
First and foremost, she is not Grace Kelly.
No.
And as much as people want to try and relate the two from circumstance, okay, first of all, Grace Kelly came from money. Her father was in the lumber industry, and he was a multi-millionaire. And when Grace got into this business, again, she was very young, very, very much like Meghan, but she had hit a stream of successes. In her situation, with Prince Rainier, was a whole lot different because he was actually the heir to the Monegasque fortune. Meghan looked very awkward during that first interview with them jointly sitting on the couch. And I did want to cut her some slack, but I'm like, you come from the professional world, you should know how to have a basic conversation with this. This is not your first interview.
And put on a facade. I mean,
Yeah.
as trained actors, and I
Yeah.
can say that because I'm a trained actor, we learn how to put on that persona and present yourself and speak eloquent. She couldn't fucking do anything. It just seemed very
Very forced and
social
unnatural,
climbing.
yeah.
It was very you know, like when you take sort of like a blue collar person and you throw them into like a country club, and this is not a dig at anyone, but you know, it might kind of take them a second to fix their posture and realize, oh geez, I've got to blend in with these assholes.
Yeah.
That's how it felt watching that interview. It was very fake, very social climate. It was uncomfortable to watch, and then it just got worse and worse. So not only does her entire family, with the exception of her mother, fucking suck, she had her father, who was paid by paparazzi. He got what, like
to
50
basically
grand?
stage a
Like a paparazzi photo shoot.
Yeah.
So they got him in like
real time, real action.
like a digital cafe, which I didn't even realize those existed, on like a computer, Googling like flights to the UK or like what to do at an English wedding or whatever. It was all fake. Then we've got her crazy fucking stepsister who never spent any time with Meghan ever, who is talking to anyone who will speak to her. CNN, Good Morning America, The Today Show, anyone just being like, Meghan's a bitch, she's this, she didn't invite us to the wedding, blah, 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 blah. At one point, didn't Kensington release some sort of a press release regarding like, you know, Meghan is deeply saddened that her father, who apparently had a heart attack right before the wedding, deeply saddened that her father will not be able to join us on this day, blah, blah, blah. We send them our very best, and so on and so forth. Because Harry and Meghan are not allowed to speak on behalf of themselves anymore. Everything that they release has to come from the palace.
Yeah.
So we get to the wedding day. And, you know, one thing I will, snaps for the wedding. Because her mother was there, and her mother looked absolutely stunning. And she was calm, and she was poised. They had a lot of black performers. They had a black priest that did, or bishop, whatever he is, that actually did the ceremony.
They modernized it.
They modernized it, and that was something that I loved to see, because I think that it is so important to be inclusive and represent all different nationalities, all different beliefs and everything. And I so loved seeing this very sort of staunchy, traditional.
It's a well-oiled
atmosphere.
machine, and to say the least, because I love the royal family, and I'm a monarchist at heart. Like, I do love a good. That's just me, but that is a system that has not changed for over a millennia, and they have. If it's not broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? And to see them make that stride to be inclusive, to adopt. Okay, we're gonna
Be inclusive.
be inclusive and be open to something other than what we normally know, because prior to Meghan, prior to Kate, one of the real rebels, even pre-Diana, was Princess Margaret. And she went through hell with her first engagement. Well, it wasn't even an engagement, but Peter Townsend, because the royal family does not allow divorcees. And even allowing Meghan in, that says a lot. Because if it's one thing that they're strict on, because the Queen is head of the church, and the church clearly states, heir to the throne or second closest heir to the throne. Like, I'm sorry, but no. It
Yeah.
just does not work that way. So, you know, they're
But Harry's also, like, I hate to say it, like, he's not, like, that important. Like, he'll never
Not
take
anymore.
the throne.
He's also always been the rebel child anyway.
Yeah.
So
But there's always been that rebel in, like, every generation to fall from status quo. But once they do get in line, which, I'm sorry, but they do all get in line eventually. It's, you know, it's kind of to the wind after that.
So the wedding takes place. The dress sucks.
The veil was beautiful. I will say that the veil was gorgeous. I did like that.
The
That
dress was
It was meh.
because it was like a not a showboat, but it was like it was
no,
like a boat cut.
it's a what the fuck do you call that? A boat neck. It was just no, it was not good. But then you know what? I did love her second dress, which I want to wear for my wedding.
I didn't like that.
I liked the second dress too.
I like the style of it because I have no torso. I've got big legs. I've got big boobs. Like I just need something that's like, well, I tried, and I think that shape is very well. I tried. So they get married. And then the world is watching, and over the course of the next few months since they got married, CorBen and I have just been like more and more unimpressed and disenchanted with her. Again, it seems fake, it seems disingenuous. She hosts all these charity events, and you know, you see these interviews of her before where she's alive and excited and she's passionate, and you see her now and it's very
cookie cutter.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it is a pleasure to be here this afternoon, and I am so looking forward to spending time with you for this cause.
Because I will say this, and there's two sides. And to play devil's advocate, how do you fit into a machine that is pre you? How do you fit into a machine that is something other than what you represent? Because Diana went through it. Princess Grace went through it.
But how hard is it for her to just stand up and say, "Good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to be here and join in the celebration with you this afternoon. It's wonderful to see everyone." This cookbook is something that I have been writing for the past year, and I feel it is such a privilege for me to share it with you. So I think we're going to start off with some blah, 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 and then this and this. So thank you again. I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. How hard is that? And is that like unclassy? Like
I don't know if it's unclassy, but I remember. Do you guys ever follow the Queen's Diamond Jubilee, where her grandsons went out on behalf for her because she can't tour the world anymore? Like the woman's like up there in her 90s, right? They had asked Harry when he was in Jamaica, what are you looking for? Because like, you know, you're a man of a particular age. He's like, first of all, I want to find a woman who knows herself, because it's hard to find a woman who's willing to give up her independent voice. Because when you marry into my family, of course I'm paraphrasing, but once you marry into my family, you no longer get a say. We cannot vote. We're not allowed to speak on politics in public. We are supposed to be in a neutral position. How do you find a woman who is so confident and sure of herself, who spent her life and her own identity, to all of a sudden have to give that up?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, that is a hard thing to find someone who's willing to do that.
Absolutely.
And I look at what Kate went through, but she had 10 years prior to get ready for that. And she knew, but also I think there was an ulterior motive with that in and of itself, because her and William were on and off for a couple of years, and I think there's more behind that story that they don't really tell the public.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But back to your question about Meghan, I'm gonna give her benefit of doubt and be like, look, you got 5 to 10 years, we'll see how you do, or she'll sink or swim.
When do you think they're going to get divorced?
After the baby.
That's exactly what I thought.
And I wish them the best, but I don't think she's fit. I don't think she fits in that brand. I don't think she fits in that mold. And because of his position, it would be one thing if he was like Princess Eugenie. Princess Eugenie does not. She's not one of the active family members going out promoting charities and all this other stuff. So therefore, she does not get an allowance in that way that Harry does, that her father does, that her aunt does. If Harry were like removed like Eugenie, then yeah, they could have a quiet, simple life. But she doesn't have that luxury.
Well, now there's all these rumors that like she and Kate Middleton are fucking getting along. Oh my god!
Yeah, tell me about that.
Okay, so they were living in sort of these gigantic estates like next to each other. They were essentially neighbors, and apparently Meghan has managed to piss off the Queen, the King, Camilla, William,
the Prince, not the King.
Sorry, whatever. She's managed to piss everyone off, and the very last person she pissed off was Kate. So now, Harry and Meghan are moving to Frogmore, which is about 45 minutes or so
which
outside.
Which is the Queen's gift to them.
Yeah, it's about 45 minutes outside of London. It's an estate. It's a small estate house that sits on a piece of property that has a large, grand house. And for the past few decades, it's been used to house all the staff members that work in the main house, which is open to the public. They're not so sure if it's still going to be open to the public. They don't really know, And it's like, okay, so devil's advocate, maybe they're not feuding. Maybe they just want their own space. I mean, Harry and William are separating their courts, and they're kind of going their separate ways because one day he's going to take the throne, and that's a total normal thing to do. But, when I hear about how people at NBC used to talk about her, and then that tweet that Piers Morgan did this week, where it was like, my ex-friend Meghan Markle is a social climbing actress who landed the role of a lifetime and is milking it for all it's worth. And I'm like, you know what? I hate Piers Morgan, but that is the tea.
I said that to you the other day too.
That is the tea. So maybe they're not feuding, but you know what? After hearing what Piers has to say, after hearing what people at NBC have to say, I don't doubt it at all. I get it, CorBen, what you're saying is you marry into this, you become a part of that machine, but it is sort of sad, and almost I think you and I find it a little bit distressing to see a woman who was once so alive.
She had her own blog, she had her own charities that she was involved in, and then she had to get rid of all of that. Now, I don't know about the charities, I think that could probably cross over, but it's no longer her account, it's their account or his account. Now, you can still be the woman behind the man, but how do you find your own identity? I think if Grace did it, if Prince Philip did it, the Queen's husband, there's definitely a way for her to do it. But she just has to take some time and really evaluate what works best for me. I'm just saying, it can be done. She's not the first person to marry into the family.
Yeah.
I mean, look, she's got a baby now, she's got her whole life ahead of her. But, all right, something that drives me absolutely nuts is not like gift giving, but gift giving in the workplace. What's right? What's wrong? What's appropriate? What's inappropriate? And why the hell do we have to do it? Can it be avoided? Let's talk about it in our next segment. Oh my God, me. So I know that a lot of other companies do this, and I want to talk to you guys, like, what has your experience with gift giving in the workplace? Like, what's happened, positive, negative? Tell me about it. Adriana, let's start with you.
Well, when I used to work in corporate, we had also a Secret Santa, and everyone, it was a small e-commerce company, so there was only, like, at the time, 20 people. So we all knew each other very well. So whoever I got, I was, like, totally okay with. I never really had anything towards anyone that didn't make me want to buy them something, so I mean, my experience was pretty good in terms of, like, let's say you do get someone you don't really want. I would say if you're gonna get them something practical, like a scarf or a wine glass or something like that. But don't just say, like,
Starbucks,
put it away.
With a Starbucks gift card and maybe like...
Yeah, but that's why something practical is always good, because you don't want to make somebody feel bad in the workplace like they got the shittiest gift.
Right. Like, just get a scarf, get a Starbucks gift card, get them, I don't know, I mean, we're in New York City, for Christ's sake. Go to Magnolia Bakery, get a box of cookies, wrap it up, put a little candy cane in the bow, and, like, that's it. So what about you, CorBen? Because last Christmas, you were on the ship.
I am the simplest person to shop for.
He's easy to please.
And I literally told them, listen, if you ever want to buy me a gift, one of three things: Coca-Cola, sour Skittles, or salt and vinegar river brand.
Oh, the deep river potato chips?
Yes. Like, I'm good.
The end.
I'm good after that. And I remember we had our gift exchange, and I was the only one that didn't get a gift, but my gift came early, which I did not mind. I was like, oh, yes. And so my our leader, who was leading the group, he said, CorBen, did you get your gift? And I said, yeah, I got mine a couple days early. He's like, oh, okay, great. Now, being said, we were on the ship, right? I was like, what can I give that is simple, free of charge? I'm really big into massage therapy. I love massages, and I really thought for a while that I was going to get into kinesiology and also massage therapy, because I think it is important as a dancer to know your body. So I said, because I was giving people free massages. Well, it wasn't free. I charged them either a Coca-Cola, sour Skittle, or salt and vinegar chips as payment, right? And so I was like, okay, great, if you're receiving this, you've won a free 2-hour session with me, full body massage. You can either break it up into 30-minute increments, or we can do the full 2 hours or hour by hour, whichever. And the girl who got it lost her living mind, and she was like, oh my gosh, yes. And it was just the best thing, and it was something so simple.
Yeah.
Something so simple. But I don't believe in Secret Santas just for that reason of you can't, or you may hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah.
I don't want to ever do that to anyone. And if I am, I'm very simple and forthcoming. Get me one of the 3 things on my list, and we're good.
Yeah.
Plain
And
and
I
simple.
also, like, to play devil's advocate, I also don't want to make someone else uncomfortable.
Yes.
With them having to give to me. But I think, okay, so to give you a little bit more of a backstory, it was sort of the running joke in the office that I had to go and sit way in the back in my own little office because I was so loud on the phone. And I'm a salesperson, so I need to be on the phone all day. That's my damn job. So for my very first Christmas with this company, I went out and I got every single person, 20 people, every single person I worked with, a little bottle of wine, a $5 Starbucks gift card, and then I bought earplugs, just like simple earplugs. I taped them to a piece of paper and I called it the Samantha Survival Kit. And I was just like, I'm sorry that I'm so loud, but I hope these little things will make me a little bit more tolerable for the holidays. Everyone laughed. We loved it. I really wanted to show people that, like, yes, I'm an intense person, and yes, I might have a weird look on my face half the time, but I can laugh at myself.
Yeah, you know what I would have loved? An Uber gift card.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yes.
Working in the city would have been the
Yes.
best thing. Because everyone has to travel to work, right?
True.
That's a really good gift.
Truth.
Well, I think also today, you know, we have become very sensitive lately as a society. So maybe not so much, but I do think it really means a lot, especially to the people that work down in payroll or the people that work in IT. Oh my God. I mean, their jobs are so hard and not even like tedious. Like, those are hard jobs and they just plug away day after day after day. Whereas like people in sales and marketing, we get to interact with each other. We're talking to clients. We're doing this, that, and the other. But people in payroll and IT, they're just sitting there like, oh my God, what fires do I need to put out now? So I know especially they love to get little things like, hey, thank you for all you do. You keep this running. You know, anything that's cheap and thoughtful. It doesn't have to be extravagant, but yeah, I just think that's, if you can, and some people, for guys especially, like, I know my boyfriends are like, I'm not going to wrap up candies. I'm like, all right, well then, you know what? Why don't, when everyone goes out to grab a drink or a snack, grab everyone around.
Right.
You make more than enough money, just get everyone around, you know, whatever. So, all right, let's, we have a really, really interesting end game. And I think our listeners are really going to like it. So everyone, hang on to your pants. Well, we're going to keep the party rolling because this whole end game thing, which we just sort of, I think we were curious to see what would happen, and it has now turned into a thing. We have people writing in. They're like, oh my God, I love dude number one. I love dude number two. Maverick, how are you today?
I'm great, Sam. Thanks for having me.
We are absolutely tickled. You've been a delight to work with. So tell us about your dating experience here in New York City.
Well, it's got many nuances. I'm a New York native, so I've been dating for a while. And yeah, I've been pretty successful, so to say. I've dated you name it, all across the spectrum, because I don't discriminate.
There you go. All right. So tell us a little bit about what you're looking for. Like, what is your dream girl?
My dream girl. Wow. The unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just, want somebody that's understanding, really practices emotional intelligence, smart, definitely, because I'd want to be able to have a good back and forth and establish some sort of rapport. Killer eyes. I've grown to learn and appreciate that, physical beauty isn't where it all is. And you just need that great, robust personality as well. It's the silver lining.
I completely agree. Yeah. It's funny you say it like emotional maturity, because I think that's something that, and understanding, that's something that the two other guys we've interviewed so far are actually, no, all three, you're the fourth. So all three of them have said that as well. So now, as a New York native, you've been dating for a while. So this is what you're looking for. What are you actually finding?
Oi. So I've come to learn, definitely with the way that dating has changed over time, it's just so instantaneous. You never know when it's coming your way, that you guys are savages. I thought we were savages. But just like sticking and moving. Like, I've been finding girls that get straight to the point. I've kind of been dating older women lately.
What's your definition of older?
Yeah. Like cougar?
Is your sandwich burning? No, I ate my sandwich.
Oh,
okay. Sorry, Mav. Hannah was making a sandwich in my toaster oven, and now I smell fire. But apparently, it's okay. Anyways, all right. What do you define as older?
So I was just recently smashing off this cougar. She's like 37.
That's a cougar.
That's young for a cougar. Do
Yeah.
you mind? How old are you, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I'm 32.
Oh.
I look younger. I get that all the time. But I just like to take care of myself, you know?
Yes, we know. We've seen pictures of you. You're lovely. Yeah. Fishing for compliments there, Mav. We got you. All right. So all right. So you're finding that girls are savages, which, truthfully, I'll be honest, that's what I like to hear. I think that we have toiled around with men's bullshit for long enough. And, whether I want to sit down and talk to you and get your attention, get your respect, or if I want to hit it and quit it, like, that's up to me, just like it's up to you.
And I'll let you know, too.
Yep. I'm all about egalitarian relationships. I don't like to define things in terms of gender roles or gender expectations. I think you just need to speak up, say what you want. If it's not the same as the other person, you say, all right, cool, bye.
Yeah, most def.
So
Clarity.
Exactly.
And,
communication.
Transparency.
So, Maverick, when you think about the dating culture here in New York City, which, as you say, is just very cutthroat.
Yeah, I want to weigh in on what you just alluded to. I was having a conversation with this grad student who I think we're about to start hooking up. And I made this analogy about, in regards to the samurai, and when the gun was introduced, the history behind that. The samurai fought to their last dying breath with swords, and they lost. I'd like to say it's a European country. They lost to these men with rifles, but they fought so valiantly. And all those people had to do with those rifles and muskets was pull a trigger. And a samurai trains their whole life, to wield that sword. And I use that analogy to describe dating nowadays, that fine art of like me walking up to a woman and finessing the convo. I like to keep I like to keep it suave. I can do that naturally, but it's swipe right, swipe left. It gives us power, but I feel like we're losing something.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There was another gentleman that we were talking to a couple weeks ago who was saying that people in New York City, they're savage and they're selfish and they want everything, but they're willing to wait for nothing. That's not to say something of whether or not they're willing to work for it, but in a city where you have so many beautiful, successful, ambitious, articulate, intelligent people who are also gorgeous, I think we do find it difficult to kind of just hone in on one because you think, well, if this one's not going to work, then there's another one around the corner. So, which leads me to my last question. As someone who grew up in New York City, you've been dating here for years. Are there any cultural shifts that you would really like to see happen or any that you are really working to change?
Now that's a great one right there. I love how the conversation is on the table now in regards to race.
Me too.
Yeah, because
Hannah's the only white girl in this conversation. You got an Asian, you got a Puerto Rican, we've got you. We will not reveal your race, but continue.
So good. I love that. It's not being shelved. That muscle is being exercised enough to where we're developing sensibility. I actually picked up somebody. She was also older. She wanted to be my sugar mama.
Ooh.
Basically,
okay.
She was like, you could be a stay-at-home husband. I was like, yeah. I'd rather get busy, And yeah. And
love it.
We would always have these conversations. She was huge on PDA, which I'm okay with.
Yeah.
And we'd have these conversations in front of people. They'd see us together, and she'd be like, what if we had a, mixed baby, and that mixed baby identified with me more? Would you grow to resent him if he were to like shun being American or not be as proud? And it was just so great, like to really like go through the flows of that conversation. And yeah, just more of that. Like, what is New York? Considered the melting pot, right? We've taken it to this new level, so it's exciting to see what's to come, because we won't see the end of it.
Absolutely. Well, wasn't it in, was it 1967, am I getting right, that finally the U.S. legalized interracial marriages? I mean, I'm Asian, and I really only date white guys. I can't imagine someone telling me that I couldn't marry the man that I loved just because we were a different color. So I really appreciate you bringing up race and doing it in such a lovely way, because I think all three of us are thrilled that it's finally something that people are talking about, and they might still be a little bit nervous to talk about it, but people are talking about it, and I think that's really, really important. Any last words, Maverick? Any words of wisdom, any advice for all the other gorgeous dudes that are listening to this and the beautiful ladies that are just eating up this segment?
Yeah. I'd say keep it fresh. This city, dating in this city is so exciting. I'm loving it. I kind of would like my days to be numbered, and I'd like to meet somebody. I've been pretty successful, and knock on wood. Yeah, I'll be off the market. Yeah, and to the men, like, have some respect for yourself and that person that you're seeing, you're courting. I mean, even though it is all instantaneous, take your time.
Amen.
And, yeah.
We are real people, and I think that we owe it to ourselves and to each other to talk and get to know each other, and build that foundation of respect, because that, I feel, is what's slipping through our fingers. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Maverick. And like I said, it was such a pleasure to coordinate this interview with you. You've been lovely and communicative, and we're so grateful. And keep in touch. Let us know how it turns out for you. All right?
Thanks, I will. Take care, Sam.
All right. How much fun was that? All right. Now, let's just do a quick 2018, because next week, on the 26th, instead of releasing a normal episode of Dixon Politics, we're going to be releasing our When I Knew segment. So this is the last time you're going to hear from us, really.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Right.
before the end of the year. So 2018, I think, was a really big year for all of us. So CorBen, let's start with you.
You know what? I learned a very valuable lesson in the workplace. I'm not going to go too much into it, but I remember I called Samantha one day.
Oh.
I was on a project.
Stay in your fucking lane.
And one of my superiors, for lack of a better word, he came up and he approached me about something that was happening. And the way that he approached it was just very unprofessional. And I remember I called my agent and I said, hey.
Antagonistic. It was bad.
And I said, I just want to let you know this is what happened. So if you hear from so-and-so, that this is what transpired.
He was shook.
We were on our lunch break, and I didn't know how to process this, because I was like, okay, well, first of all, we're on our lunch break. And the fact that you went out of your way to come and find me out in the parking lot and to berate me in broad daylight.
In front of other people and humiliate him.
There's a right and a wrong way to do something. Now, and I've heard from other coworkers in the business that, oh, yes, so-and-so can be like this, and that it's just tolerated. Now, he's a dinosaur in this business because he's been working at this specific place time and time again. But I'm like, the fact that that kind of behavior is allowed, that says something about the company that you keep. And so it was a mental note for me, for my future, for when I get up to that position of leadership, check myself, how am I feeling? Okay, great. Samantha, I have a problem. I feel like we need to discuss this. Do you have a moment? Great, let's talk. This is what you're doing. This is what I think needs to be fixed, because this is not true to what we had originally set. Great. Oh, not? Okay, well then let's talk about it. Let's work it out. Because the person who had created the full design, the creative mind behind this, she checked in with us regularly, whether that be over the phone, via email, or whether it be coming to see the finished product. Now, she never had a problem. She never said anything. But the fact that you went out of your... Anyways.
That was definitely...
Yeah, it was just not okay.
So stupid.
That was the pit. And that really made me learn something from
And
that.
you will never treat people
Oh.
that way.
And
Not
if
that
I,
you do now.
And if I do, check me. Please check
Oh,
me.
I already told you. I'll stop talking to you. What was the peak?
The peak was I have a better relationship with my dad.
Yes, you do.
My dad and I, to lightly talk on this, my dad and I did not have a good relationship for a majority of my childhood and my youth growing up. And there were 3 years of my life that went by that I really hated him. And I mean hated him. If he were to die today, tomorrow, I would not have cared. And I had 2 revelations in my life. Once coming out of college, and then another one about a couple weeks ago. I said, why am I wasting all my time, energy, on all this anger and resentment? And it has no bearings. And I said, why not spend the next 20 to 30 years of his life giving him good, happy memories instead of, a piss poor, antagonistic, villainous behavior? It's like, it doesn't make sense. So I'm proud to say that as of 23, my dad and I have a better relationship, and truly for the better. And I think it has affected the relationship with my mom, their family, and their friends. And he's just a whole different person. You would not recognize him.
That's great. And I know you worked really hard on that, and I'm very happy for you. Adriana, what was your pit and your peak?
My pit was probably finding out who my friends really are, but the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
As in, long story short, I had a friend who was deceiving me. She was portraying herself as somebody else, and then I did a bunch of other crazy things.
She messed up one of your businesses.
She messed up my business. Yeah, it was just a lot. But yeah, that really hurt me because I was friends with her for years, like 5 years. So yeah, just learning the hard way. I guess I can say it was also a blessing in disguise. So the peak of 2018 would have to be the fact that I am making bank. My stacks are back up, and it's just because, like we said before, I think in episode 1, that we all lost our jobs at one point, and now we're all doing really good. So smooth sailing into 2019.
Awesome. I think that I'll speak for Hannah. I think that Hannah's pit this year was very similar to yours, just really figuring out where she wanted to put her love and her energy, and who she wanted to take it away from or block it from altogether. On top of that, trying to find a job that was a really good fit. She went through a lot of highs and lows this year, but I think Hannah's peak is that she's in very good health right now. She's feeling good. She's looking good. She is working for a really cool small business that I know she loves. And she also has a new boyfriend who is absolutely lovely. And you and I, as her best friends, we're just thrilled that he treats her the way that he does, because she really deserves it. And she recently sold her home, so she's getting a little bit of a fresh start. And she brought her betta fish to my house, so now all she's got is her dogs to worry about. So I think that she's really ending 2018 on a high note, and I'm proud of her also really learning how to speak up for herself this year. That was huge, and I'm very, very proud of her for figuring out what sort of a voice works for her. I think that my pit for this year was fearing that I would lose a lot of faith and trust in people that I thought I could trust. I really put trust in people that I thought I could trust because I thought they respected me, I thought they believed in me, and I thought they had my best interests in mind. And I found out that they didn't. And, trying to spend the greater part of a year wrapping your head around anger and grief and loss and confusion was really, really dark for me. And I don't want to thank just you two, because you guys were amazing. So was Hannah. I mean, how many times would I call you crying? But my other friends too, and especially my parents. Oh my God! I mean, all I ever wanted was to be someone that my parents could be proud of. And all year I have felt like I fell so short of that goal. So the peak of my year was probably, with the help of my friends and my family members, pulling myself up out of my little shithole and saying, no more. And this podcast, like we said in episode 1, we had been tossing this idea around. Was it a podcast? Was it a YouTube channel? Is it a business? What is it? For a good 2 years. And then I pulled the trigger. And you and Hannah were like, yes, 100%. So the peak of my year started with this podcast. and watching it grow the way it has, then very quickly by episode 3, getting it to a point where the 3 of us are really proud of it, making the decision to post about it on LinkedIn. I have over 1,000 professional colleagues and contacts on LinkedIn. They're very used to seeing me extremely professional, very buttoned up, very controlled. They're not used to seeing me in this way. But I put it out there, and my lucky freaking stars, a former client of mine who is a CEO of this amazing software company here in New York City, saw my post, was like, holy shit, I had no idea that you were available. Can you come down here on Monday? I'm like, I can come down last month. I can come down last year. So I walked in that Monday. I met with the chief client officer. We hit it off immediately. CEO came in. The 3 of us were vibing. And 15, 20 minutes into my interview, they offered me the job on the spot. And I started this past Wednesday. Yeah. So
yes, girl.
It's all about just, we do Dicks in Politics for a number of reasons, but we really do want to create a dialogue and a space where our listeners can just come as they are and gain different perspectives and viewpoints and laugh and be empathetic and just come and be. And the best advice that I can give you guys, you both and also our listeners, going into 2019, be who you are, whomever that may be in that moment. And if something isn't sitting right and it sits with you for like 3 weeks or more, move on. Because there are always other doors that will open to you. There is light, I swear to you, it's always there if you will just turn your head and look for it, and when you see it, run. And don't stop running. So thank you for helping end our 2018, the toughest year of all of our lives, with your support and your belief in us in our early days. We are so grateful. We want to wish you, your friends, and your family a very happy holidays, a wonderful and bright new year, and we can't wait to catch up with you. So, this is Samantha.
This is Adriana.
And this is CorBen.
And you've been listening to Dicks and Politics. Thank you for listening to Dicks and Politics.
Digestible and unfiltered content about men, money, and moments.
New episodes every Wednesday.
Don't forget to subscribe.